Like many teams across Major League Baseball, the Seattle Mariners play a lot better in their home ballpark. This is not something that should come as a surprise to people who just generally pay attention to baseball, but the Mariners are in a very unique position where 37-25 is their record at home. The last time they had a homestand, they went 9-1 across 10 games, so a 900 win percentage. It's not sustainable, but that 596 win percentage from that 37-25 record, that's really, really good. And when you take a look at their record on the road and you see that it's 31-35, if you're paying attention as well, you know that they just went 2-7 on their most recent road trip where they got swept by the Phillies. They lost both their series against the Mets and the Orioles. The Seattle Mariners have been a franchise and an organization and a team that within the last 5 years or so has been largely built on pitching and on the idea that we will suppress runs. We will not allow you to score runs. We might not score a ton, but you aren't either. And with the suppressing run factor that is T-Mobile Park, that's been a large pillar of success for them, and that's why they've been so good at home. So that begs the question, are the Seattle Mariners, and maybe have they always been, T-Mobile Park merchants? And in 2025, it's abundantly clear that the answer to that question is yes. On the offensive side, on the pitching side, just based around record alone, Seattle excels at home and they struggle mightily on the road. Now, they didn't always struggle on the road. At one point this season, 24 games into their away schedule, they were 15-9, 6 games above 500, the best record that we'd seen them be at in the 2025 season. That was all the way back on May 21st. Then they went to Houston and lost 3 out of 4, and their road winning ways kind of fell by the wayside. And I used that as the marker, the time frame from those first 24 games to the now 42 following it, since the Mariners have played 66 games on the road with the record of 31-35. What differences are there between those first 24 games and the latter 42? And I can tell you there's quite a big difference. And offensively, it's not much. The team WRC plus for those first 24 games is 116. The following 42 was 110. Not that big of a difference. There were 10 players with a WRC plus over 100 on May 21st, and since then there's been 9 players in that time frame. So consistent offense has been present. Strikeout and walk percentages around league average. Like they're a very similar team. Their slash line ends with a 767 OPS for the May 21st team and 759 for the rest of the way. So offensively, very similar. The pitching is where we see the big discrepancy. And there's a couple names that I don't want to say we undervalued as Mariners fans, because there are definitely people that were giving them their praise. But for the team through May 21st, only 2 pitchers in the starting rotation had ERAs below 3. And we know how good Logan Gilbert has been in the past. George Kirby, Luis Castillo, Brian, it was none of those guys. It was Emerson Hancock and Logan Evans. Hancock had a 2.91 road ERA through May 21st, over 21 2/3 innings pitched. Logan Evans, a 2.65 ERA through 17 innings. The team ERA as a whole was 3.61, so under 4, that's pretty dang good. On the road as a whole, through the 66 games on the road so far, a 4.93 ERA. So you take those first 24 games, you're sitting at a 3.61. Over the last 44, that has grown by almost a run and a half. How do you get to that point? Well, your team ERA is 5.19 from May 22nd until now. You're allowing 228 runs over those 44 games. You're getting outscored 202 to 225 in that time span. You have a negative run differential. You're 16-26 over that time span. It's not good, and it stems from the starting rotation. The relievers, yeah, they haven't been as good either. The reliever ERA was 3.31 in the first 24 games. In the latter 42, a 4.63 bullpen ERA. Guys like Casey Legomina continue to struggle. But Gabe Spire, his ERA was almost double in the most recent 42 games than it was in the previous 24. It's still good. He had a 3.46 ERA in that 16 and 26 stretch, but in the 15 and 9 stretch, he had a 1.93 ERA. There's subtle differences to note. The main one, there's two main takeaways, I think, though, is the production you got out of Emerson Hancock and Logan Evans and how that completely went away with the record from May 22nd to August 21st. And the overall slugging against for the starting rotation. In those first 24 games, 3 of the pitchers in the starting rotation that made a normal amount of innings, like Logan Gilbert only pitched 4 2/3, right? He doesn't really count in this conversation. Brian Wu, Emerson Hancock, Luis Castillo, all 3 of those pitchers had a slugging against that was less than or equal to 400. And I think 400 slugging, it's not great. It's like suppressing power and suppressing slug in that way. That to me is like a benchmark of, okay, we're getting by. We're doing well-ish. And having 3 of the 5 starting rotation members be part of that, I think led to a team ERA of 3.61, where you have a positive run differential in that 15 and 9 record of 27, where the offense is scoring 125 runs and you're allowing 98. You're suppressing hard contact, you're suppressing slug, and that does not ring true in the latter 42 games, where you're allowing 69 of the 86 home runs, almost 80% of the home runs in 66% of the games. No pitcher in the 42 games since May 22nd on the road has a slugging against less than 400 or even less than 421, because George Kirby has the lowest slugging against in that time span of 422. Brian Wu is at 426. So they're close, but no one is below that threshold of 400. I mentioned Hancock and Evans. Their ERAs were the only 2 below 3 on the road in the first 24 games. Their ERAs ballooned in that 42 game stretch. They put up a 7.20 for Hancock over 20 innings and a 7.33 for Evans in 23 1/3. If we want to lump in Bryce Miller, I know he was hurt. I don't really want to lump him in, but it just sounds better to get over the 50 innings threshold, I think, over that time span. Miller had an 8.10 ERA, so 53 1/3 innings pitched from a starter, from multiple starters, an ERA around 7.5. That's not acceptable. That is not sustainable. That's not going to allow you to win baseball games. The offense would have to be putting up a 130 WRC plus in that time span to mitigate all the runs that you are allowing and no longer suppressing. The offense was still good. It was still above average. It was a 110 WRC plus. You're 10 points better than league average. You're still having an OPS of 759. You as a team yourself were slugging 437. But the slug against, it was just too much to overcome. And that to me is like the big difference between the first 24 games on the road for the Mariners and the latter 42, where you do go 16 and 26. It's a -10 win differential, where you were once +6 in the win column, and now you're sitting as the Mariners at 31 and 35, -4, a 470 win percentage. They have 15 games left. They're probably going 7 and 8 at best, maybe 8 and 7 at best. But the laws of outcomes of how the statistics will show that 470 win percentage, yeah, there's a bit of variance there. But it doesn't bode well for the Mariners on the road, especially if they're not going to be hosting a wild card game or hosting a division series if they do make the postseason. You have to hope that they can win the games at home and take this 596 win percentage currently with 37 and 25 and build upon that. We see the 9-1 homestand, that 900 win percentage, and think, is that attainable? Probably not. But over these 62 games, the starter ERA is 3.22 for the starting pitchers. In total, it's a 3.38 ERA when you factor in the bullpen as well. The home ERA for Gilbert, a 2.22. Home ERA for Castillo, a 2.41. Brian Wu, a 2.39. George Kirby, a 3.38. I didn't include the Evans, Hancock, Miller group anymore for this because to me it's not super relevant. Because Hancock's not going to start for you. He's coming out of the bullpen now. Or at least they've made that transition, whether it's about innings or they want to see if you can ramp him up to 97, 98 and see if you can use him in the pen because the Mariners bullpen desperately needs some help as well. You're not going to see Evans. He's on the injured list. Miller, I don't really want to count it because whether or not he performs better since he was hurt all season, the home ERAs for the starters and even the relievers. I mean, on the road, the relievers have been good. You have 3 relievers below a 3 ERA in total on the year with Munoz at a 0.75, Brash at a 2.08, and Spire at a 2.82. When you look at the home reliever ERA, you've got 4. If you want to count Ferguson, you can as a 5th pitcher here out of the pen with an ERA below 2. Munoz, a 1.88 ERA. Brash, a 1.62. Spire, a 1.78. Edward Bizardo, a 1.93. And then Ferguson, in his limited opportunities, of course, a 1.59 ERA. The difference is all in the pitching, in the home and road splits. The offense at home, yeah, they're not scoring as many runs. 255 compared to the 327 on the road in a 4-game span. Like, if we want to catch up to the away runs scored, I mean, dropping 70 in a 4-game stretch, it's not impossible, but it surely is improbable. And similar to the away WRC pluses, the discrepancy there where it wasn't that big of a difference, the team has a 112 WRC plus on the road and a 105 WRC plus at home. The team is still able to be above average at home, and they are well above average. They are excelling in the pitching department at home. That 3.22 ERA for the starters at home, a batting average of 206 against, a slugging against of 348. That is suppressing runs. That is the brand of baseball we know the Mariners can play. The excellent record that the Mariners have in 1-run games at 26-16, 18-5 at home for the Seattle Mariners in T-Mobile Park. Yes, without a doubt, they are T-Mobile Park merchants. How can they get better on the road? Suppress the slug, find the swing and miss, work deeper into games. The issue with this last road trip is no starter was really able to give you a ton of length outside of George Kirby against the Orioles, realistically. And then that causes the bullpen to have to cover and be more exposed and not be in the best scenarios where they are allowed to succeed. I didn't mention Zach Pop or Taylor Saucedo in the road ERAs because both of them have road ERAs of over 12. But they were in such limited outings that does it really matter? I mean, yeah, you probably lost a game or two because of them. So how can they be better? How can you emulate, try and translate what you've done at home to on the road? They've done it on the offensive side. The Mariners at home, I mean, they've got 8 players, 7 of which are in the starting lineup with a WRC plus of over 100 at home. When you take a look at that on the road, they've got 8 players on the entire roster with a WRC plus of over 100. 5 of those, though, are in the starting lineup. You have 7 100 or better, league average or better hitters in your lineup when they play at home. Compared to on the road, you only have 5 in your lineup every single day. I did have a benchmark for where the Mariners maybe hit their season low at home with a significant amount of sample size to kind of consider. After they got swept by the Baltimore Orioles on June 5th, they were 21-20. Since then, they've gone 16-5 at home. 37-25 is their record. They faced the Athletics. They face the Padres. They have 19 more games at home and only 15 more on the road. So the T-Mobile Park merchants, maybe this does benefit the Mariners for the remainder of this season, but you need to capitalize on the moments you do have at home, and they have to right the ship somehow on the road. The away ERA for Gilbert being at 6 flat, almost triple his home ERA. Castillo's at a 5.04 when it's a 2.41 at home. Wu, the only stable force in the rotation, a 3.48 away ERA, a 2.39 ERA at home. Bryan Woo, the savior of the rotation. Somehow, some way, he needs to rub off onto these other pitchers and get one of their ERAs on the road below 5 by season's end. Because if not, this team, they might not make the postseason with the way that the Royals are kind of catching on. There's still a very good chance that they do, but when you only have one qualified starter who's able to pitch to an ERA below 5 on the road, you're going to run into trouble more often than not. And it's all about limiting damage. It's all about avoiding the big hit, avoiding the slug. You could look at quality of opponents, sure. In those first 15-9, the first 24 games, who did the Mariners play on the road? Well, they played the Giants, who were really good to start the year. They played the Reds, who are currently a wild card team or in the hunt for it. They played the Blue Jays and beat them at home. They're leading the American League East. They beat the Red Sox. Hancock shoved against the Red Sox. Like, that team had fight, had grit. They were road warriors at one point this season. Who's to say that they can't get back to that? And a lot of this data would say that they can't. But I'm not ready to fully give up on the Mariners when some of their away schedule, you have 3 against Cleveland, massive series, right outside the postseason picture. You have 3 against Tampa Bay. Yes, in a AAA park, doesn't matter. You already swept them at home. You have 3 against Atlanta. They're a really rough team this year. Yes, they've got a lot of talent, but they are in a bad spot. You have 3 against Kansas City. That is a must-win in Kauffman. You have then 3 in Houston to finish off the away schedule for the year. They can go 9-6 over those 15 and save their away record and salvage it to almost 500. Without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, if this team performs to where we know that they can. And it all starts with the starting pitching being able to go out there and not surrender the game within the first 4 innings. That is the key to success for the Mariners, and it has and always will be, so long as they're playing in T-Mobile Park with the huge run suppressing factor that it is, and you can see the difference between the home and away. It's figuring out how to translate that on the road. But until then, the Seattle Mariners are undoubtedly T-Mobile Park merchants.